This episode is called The Man Who Killed Batman. It came out on February 1st, 1993, directed by Bruce Timm and written by Paul Dini. Hello, Mr. Paul Dini, how are you?
I'm great, Alex. How are you?
Very good, thank you. It's featuring Kevin Conroy as Batman, Robert Costanzo as Detective Bullock, Matt Frewer as Sidney Debris, Mark Hamill as the Joker, Arlene Sorkin as Harley Quinn, Maurice LaMarche as Murphy, Ingrid Olu as Officer Montoya, Robert Picardo as Eddie G, John Vernon as Rupert Thorne, and uncredited for Bud and Lou. But I think that might be Frank Welker. It's usually the person that did those animal noises.
I think those may have been sound effects. I think we had laughing hyena sound effects, and I don't recall that Frank was in that day. But we have used him in the past. He's a zoo full of talent, and when it comes to making wild animal noises, and
if
he doesn't make the noise exactly as the animal sounds in nature, it's such a unique creation that you're willing to buy it. It's like. He's marvelous. So I don't think we had him there. I think those are sound effects.
Gotcha. I do love Bud and Lou, though. They're great additions to Joker's little gang.
Oh, they're fun.
So this episode was animated by Sunrise, and they previously produced the episodes that we've reviewed, which were Pretty Poison, The Cat and the Claw Part 1, Heart of Steel Parts 1 and 2, The Clock King, I Am the Night, and Off Balance. So this is our third episode in a row that we've reviewed, Will, with Sunrise as the animation.
Well, I'm the world's biggest Clock King fan. That's like one of my favorite episodes. So you can see the quality in this one because of Clock King.
Clock King.
Clock King kind of brought the whole show to a new level, I think.
Yeah.
So, Paul, what did you think of Sunrise work on this episode?
Well, I thought it was pretty good. I think it's pretty solid. I think the high watermarks of the animated series will always be something like On Leather Wings with a great flight through Gotham City, or Feet of Clay Part 2 with a wonderful, where Clayface literally goes all to pieces. That animation is so good. But I thought the Sunrise did a really good job on this episode. There was a lot of character interplay that they caught really well. We'll see when the Joker performs his eulogy from Batman, Bruce Timm, who directed the episode, boarded all that in detail, and he did such a tremendous acting job on the Joker on the boards in his pencils. It was stunning to see that all come to life, and I think that they did a really good job of capturing the character of the Joker and his intensity and his sorrow and mock sorrow all through that speech, as Bruce laid it out. Which is hard to do because it's a static scene of him just talking, with little cutaways to Sidney and the gang and everything. But I thought it's hard to capture a scene, even though the emotion is there behind the actor's performance, if the drawing doesn't match it. And I think it did it very well here.
Please allow me the honor of shaking hands with the man who did the impossible. The man who killed Batman.
Is it the first time outside of comics that we see Joker's relationship and dependency and Batman being in his world? Because I think up till then there was no other version besides in the comics of that, right?
No, and I really wanted to play that up here in that they do have this intensity. They have this sort of twisted love affair, people have called it, or this weird kinship that one is sort of lost without the other. And there are times I think that, the reason Batman doesn't kill is because he doesn't want to start a precedent. If I kill the Joker, then the Penguin's next, and then I'll work my way down to somebody like the Condiment King, and then he gets it too. It's like it won't stop. But but I also think there's sort of a weird thing in Batman's personality, and this is really a subject for Hugo Strange or Harley Quinn in her more lucid moments to analyze Batman. Like, does he keep him alive because without him, he would quit being Batman? He needs that to keep going, which would make Batman into sort of a monster because he doesn't really care about the collateral damage Joker does. It's all about his mission. But again, that's a subject for, Mad Doctor's Roundtable. So you get Hugo, Harley, and perhaps Jonathan Crane in there. I'm sure that would be, gosh, that'd be a good show.
I was going to say, you're building a really good show in front of us.
I want to see that.
Do it in the Batman Adventures comic, right? That'd be cool.
Yeah. with special guest from Animaniacs, the Brain. It's like, you're all mad. But
Well, yeah, that's true. I know that you and because we've had Alan Burnett on the show before, I know you and Alan have been doing The Adventure Continues, and I know that right now, is there any current plans to possibly return for another series, or is that door closed?
Well, we did a lot of those. We did like 3 seasons of those. So I think over a total of nearly 30 comic installments with the occasional special or one-off story from one of the annuals. By the time we finished the last story, the Ra's al Ghul story, we were kind of Batmaned out. But we do want to keep the door open to do like a special, because there were a couple of ideas that we had that we felt could be big stories, one-shot stories. And so we haven't been thinking about that now. And I don't think we're going to think about it for a while, because there is the new Caped Crusader out. And I think that for the time being, that's going to set the standard for Batman in the animated style for a couple of years, I would think. I've not heard this, but I would assume they would be working on some sort of comic book version of it, and to have the animated series side by side with it or coming out soon after. You don't want to flood the market with things like that. But so we may do another Batman story, but it may be stylistically different than the animated series. It may have the tone of the animated series somewhat in as far as the story and the characterization, but I think we go for a look that is not the animated series look, and so that it doesn't conflict with or confuse with Caped Crusader. But again, we're kind of on bat hiatus, and when we have a good idea for a story, we'll
You just did have a good idea for a story, may I remind you. And there is an artist that works for DC that's right here as well.
Well,
I could probably do that.
There we go. Ready to saddle up, Will?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A buddy of mine, Danielle's, did a cover for your series that is amazing. I don't know if you are aware of it. It's a classic image of Batman just standing on the rooftop in the darkness, and he just won a Ringo.
Oh, they're wonderful. Yeah. I mean, that's what was really gratifying about working on the Batman: The Adventures Continue book, is that there was so much enthusiastic talent that wanted to jump in and be a part of that. And I think that a lot of the artists we had were kind of young when the show was on, but it had an effect on them. So it's they loved the chance to jump in and contribute to that world. So like when I started writing animation and I had a chance to write, a classic character like Bugs Bunny, who, was in his prime 30 years before, it's like, oh, hey, great. That'll be fun. Or Daffy Duck, or those characters. You want to contribute to the mythology you grew up loving.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I got into the business of drawing comics. But it's funny because I was drawing a Batman story at the time, a couple of years ago when that book was coming out, and my editor was editing your book, and I was like, please let me do something on this book. And it was all obviously booked up.
We'll get you in on the next run. Whenever we have a next run, then you're in.
Awesome.
You got a spot.
I'll hold you to that.
That's been recorded. That's on the record.
I will send that to every editor at DC and say, see?
Yep. One of the directors on this show, I was meeting with him on another project, and he brought a sketchbook, and he had something that I thought was really terrific, and he wants to pitch it as a graphic novel. And I said, I'll walk this through the door myself. This is so solid and so perfect. And then he said, well, maybe if you script it with me. And I go, you don't need me. This is, you did it yourself. And he goes, no, but I would like to have you aboard. Well, I was very flattered about it. But we're waiting to hear back from DC if that's, something. It would be like a special project, and I think they, those are a little more harder to greenlight than the monthly books or things like that. So, but we'll see. But that's something we're talking about. But I look upon this more as that artist project, with me just kind of helping out where I can. So,
well, I have to say, one of my favorite Batman books in the past 10 years was your personal Dark Knight, a true Batman story.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't know what to expect going into it. I was obviously a fan of your work, but I just thought, when I was done with it, I was like, God, that was just one of the best comics I've ever read. So,
thank you.
Just, amazing stuff.
How I agonized over the perfect way to thank him for that.
So yeah, to continue on about this episode, it's directed by Bruce Timm, who's been credited previously in our review of Heart of Ice, as well as being mentioned a bunch on this show, so you can go back and listen to those episodes to learn more about his career. And writer Paul Dini has been credited previously in our review of Joker's Favor and Heart of Ice, as well as being with us today. So we're going to do some acting creds here. All returning voice actors have been credited previously on this pod in their first appearance, such as Mark Hamill in Christmas with the Joker and John Vernon in It's Never Too Late. As far as new acting creds go for this show that we haven't seen yet, we've got Maurice LaMarche, who voices Murphy, and Maurice is also known for voicing the role of Inspector Gadget, and Egon Spengler in The Real Ghostbusters, Yosemite Sam in Looney Tunes, and Brain
Yosemite.
and the Brain.
And the Brain.
Oh, wow.
He's one of my favorite actors to work. They're all wonderful, but I love any chance to work with Mo. And he brings so much to the room, and he's so good. And, he's all over a part like the Brain, and he makes it so distinctive. And then he comes in and he does a, kind of a sideline character, Murphy, for us. But they're all, it's just terrific. That's what I loved about Warner Brothers at that time, is that you could always get actors, from they'd bop from one show to another. Usually we would record back then for a big chunk of the time we were recording. We'd do, I think it was on a Wednesday, we'd record, or Andrea Romano would record Animaniacs earlier in the day. And then around lunchtime, we'd come in and do Batman. And so a lot of the actors were, would be lingering there. So we could always get Mo or Rob or Tress or any of them to kind of guest star or do a couple of roles for us. They'd stay on for Batman, and that was always great having them in on.
That's
on the show.
I did not know that. I mean, I've seen like Rob Paulson pop up every now and then. So to know that that's how it crossed over was just like, thanks for Animaniacs. Do you have like 20 minutes? We just want to record a few lines for this.
Yeah, you want to play and stay and play a goon or something like that.
Yeah.
Any questions, Murph?
No, sir.
Good man.
But I will say there was this recording. I'll give you a little backstory on this recording. The episode aired in February of 1993. We recorded this episode probably on or around April 29th, 1992. Wow. And that's significant because that was the day of the LA riots that swept through the town as a result of the Rodney King trial. And this was something that kind of escalated throughout the day. And Arlene Sorkin and I were pretty close. We were friends and we were also neighbors. So on the day where we would record Batman, she was in the show, I would generally work at home and then we would go together. I'd pick her up. We might have breakfast or hang out, and then we'd go to the recording. And on this day, I had told her, you're going to be, as Harley, you're going to be playing the kazoo as sort of like a mock, sign of respect to this guy. You're going to play Amazing Grace on the kazoo. And she said, oh, that's cool. That's fun. And she was, practicing in the car. Well, we knew that was the date of the decision of the trial, I believe. And what happened was throughout the day, we heard that there was this unrest brewing. And then by the time we'd finished the recording, it was time to go. We had to drive home. And we both lived over toward West Hollywood. So we had to drive through LA while the riots were going on. The riots had started. They'd come on. They were in full blast. And as we drove back along Fountain Street, I believe, we could see people running around, rioting, going in and out of stores. We could see people pushing shopping carts full of merch. One guy was pushing a shopping cart while he was pulling another one in front of the car. And we're watching this kind of in stunned disbelief. And Arlene just takes out the kazoo and starts playing taps. Some sort of mournful song, and I'm going, keep playing, we got to get through this. But it was going through there, and I think she switched up to something a little happier to keep our spirits up. And she said to me, could you drop me at CBS? I have a meeting there later. And I said, I don't think there's going to be a meeting at CBS. And she goes, no, just drop me there. It'll be fine. And, I have a meeting at 4:00, with an executive there. So I drove her down to CBS, which is at the farmer's market. And this was not looking good. We were seeing like people ransacking ATMs and everything. And I said, are you going to be okay? Do you want me to walk in with you? And she goes, no, just drop me here. I'll walk in myself. And I said, all right. So I did. And then things were getting so bad. I called my brother who lives up in Monterey, and I said, no, I'm done. I'm coming up there. I'm just going to take the next day off. I'm just going to hang out, up in Monterey. And so I was going to I was going to pack and go to the airport and just get on a plane. And as I'm packing, the phone rings, and it's Arlene's mom. And she says, Paul, do you know where Arlene is? And I said, I dropped her at CBS. Isn't she there? And she goes, no, I haven't heard from her, and CBS is closed today.
My God.
I thought, oh my God, I dropped her off in the middle of the riots. What's going to happen? And at that point, very few people had, I didn't have a cell phone,
right.
A few people did. But I was really worried, and I was going to drive over to CBS and drive around, Television City and Television Center and see if she was there. And it turns out her boyfriend, got in contact with her, and he picked her up. And so everything was okay. And then I called Arlene's mom back and says, oh, she's home. Okay, good. We have the fantasy world of Batman and crime, and then you have a real, you top it off with a day of real social unrest. And
Harley Quinn is still playing the kazoo in both instances.
That's right.
Yeah. So we just, she just played the kazoo as we were driving home as a way of trying to keep both our spirits up. And we were just kind of going like, holy crap. Wow.
Well, that was fun. Who's for Chinese?
So more voice acting creds here. We got Robert Picardo, who voices Eddie G. He'll also go on to voice the roles of Black Hawk and Amazo in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Yep. He's also known for playing the cowboy in Inner Space and the Doctor in Star Trek Voyager as other credits that I noticed. And then we got Matt Frewer, who voices Sidney Debris. He's also known for playing Moloch in the Watchmen film. He's also Frank in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. He's Big Russ Thompson in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And he's the voice of the roles of the leader in the Incredible Hulk animated series and the character Panic in Disney's Hercules.
Did you mention Max Headroom?
What was that? What was that in?
Max Headroom. He had his own show. He was this computer-generated image of a blonde guy who had this stylized background in back of him, and he was
sounds like every TikTok person today, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
blonde guy with a CGI AI background.
And afterwards, that is directly following, I want to talk to you about something even bigger, namely Max Headroom. So,
sit back,
relax,
and enjoy.
This guy. Wait a minute, see if I can show. You remember that guy?
Oh, I've seen that before.
Have you? Oh, okay. Oh, wait, no, I have seen that guy. Yes, I have seen that guy. Okay, I just never knew that was the name.
And he always stuttered, and he wore sunglasses, and he was like, one of those icons, flash in the pan, like Spuds McKenzie and a bunch of others, that Mac Tonight, and things that just are in your consciousness for a second, and then they fade into you're at a antique store and you see stuff and you go, oh, geez, this, wow.
Well, I really like him as Sid the Squid. I think he's so good.
Oh, he's wonderful.
This episode. Yeah. How did Matt Frewer come to be a part of the episode? Do you know?
Well, he's a terrific actor. And again, I have to give a huge chunk of the credit to Andrea Romano, because she would go out and find the best talent for the best voice, for the best characters. And I think it must have been, she and Bruce would talk a lot before the episodes about the sort of person, would be best to bring in for a certain role. And I think she liked the nervousness and the frustration in Matt's voice for Sid. And so when I heard that she had cast Sid with Matt, I was very happy about that, because I knew he could bring the part off, because we were thinking, like, what kind of a character is he going to be? Well, he's going to be kind of a nebbish. He's going to be kind of a Wallace Shawn, Woody Allen type, guy like that. But Matt really, nailed it. He brought in that, that kind of nervous quality that he has, and did a really terrific job.
What is it they're calling you? Oh, yes. The man who killed Batman.
Oh, yes. No, that is, I didn't. Oh, Mr. Thorne, I'm in big trouble.
The name Sid the Squid is kind of a nod to a Fox executive we worked with named Sidney Iwanter, who was a big fan of the show, and he would often go to bat for us when we had something that we wanted to run, that the network initially had doubts with. He would usually take our side. Sometimes he wouldn't, but we liked him, and he was our exec on the show, so we named the character, Sidney after him. And also the name Sid the Squid, floated around a while. It was also used on Animaniacs as a recurring character over there.
Oh, you're already reading off my fun facts here.
Okay, sorry.
No, by all means. That's. I mean, it comes from you. Also, Sid the Squid was used already on Batman the Animated Series as one of Tony Zuko's aliases in Robin's Reckoning.
Sure,
so that's just a popular name for you guys as well, I guess.
It's a rhyming, alliterative name. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
We'll call you Sid the Squid. Sid the Squid. Yeah.
I just think that this episode to me has always been sort of the perfect either A or B side to Joker's favor. Just two guys getting involved way over their heads in the world of Batman and the criminal underworld of Gotham.
Well, it's always great to do a heavy Bruce Wayne story. I mean, the best Batman stories start as Bruce Wayne stories, but we had so many stories to tell. It's also fun to take the point of view of one of the little people of Gotham whose life does not usually involve Batman in any way. And what happens when some element of Batman's world, either Batman himself or Gordon or one of the villains, intrudes on their life, and how they process it. And some of those are like the most fun stories for me to write, because you have to imagine what's happening in the city beyond the day-to-day vision of the people who have to work and send their kids to school and survive in the city.
Did you write a story, or did I read that you were thinking about a story where it started with Batman getting ready, Joker getting ready, and then just some random Joe Schmo getting ready, and they were all like, it was showing the beginnings of their day, and then their paths were all going to cross at some point in the day.
I did want to do that. Yeah, I really thought that would be fun to show that moment of interaction where they all come together and they all go apart. And to some degree, that's what this is, and that's what Joker's favor is. It's and what's it's fun to think about somebody who, like the guy who works as a barista at the local Starbucks. Here comes Bruce Wayne. He's always so nice. There's always he always leaves a $20 tip for us, and he likes his latte done like this, and you can share a word with him, and you never have any idea this guy is Batman. The guy working at the Starbucks at the Wayne, the Wayne Towers Starbucks in
that's fun.
In the lobby, and
he's the guy that gives Batman coffee breath when he's like really close to thugs interrogating them. They're like, "Why you stink of like coffee breath, man?"
Well, that would be a fun story. Is like the barista has an encounter with Batman, and he says, "He smelled like Mr. Wayne's Cafe Americano with a touch of cinnamon." It couldn't be, but
I love
it'd be also funny if he always thought his name was Bryce Wayne, and that's what's written on his cup. It's just always a mix-up. Is that Bryce Wayne? Famous Bryce Wayne?
He couldn't throw a fit over it. He'd just say, Bryce Wayne, and Bruce would go, "Yes, that's me."
Yeah, that's me.
I think he would welcome that, because the guy doesn't make the connection between Bruce Wayne, and he likes the fact that somebody would know him by another name. It's like he doesn't have to be Bruce Wayne with this guy. And so the guy let her think like, Batman is Bryce Wayne.
Yeah.
And then there's nobody listing the phone book, or there's no person as Bryce Wayne in Gotham. So it's like...
Joker, please! I was set up! Bruce Wayne is Batman!
That's absurd. I know Bruce Wayne. If he's Batman, I'm the King of England.
We got our utility belt of fun facts here. First fun fact is Arlene Sorkin played Amazing Grace on the kazoo in one take in the studio.
Yep.
That is, I heard you guys were in stitches as well, and it was a good thing.
We
It was
were
only...
laughing our butts off. Yeah, we thought it was great.
That's awesome. Next one. The idea for the episode came out from a debate between Bruce Timm and Paul Dini on whether they could do a Batman episode without Batman present for the majority of it.
Yep. Yeah, it was fun. Like we would talk about it, and wouldn't it be fun to do something like this? And it's like, if you can make it work, you know, and do it. And this may be in your notes also, but I was deeply inspired by Will Eisner's spirit stories, where quite often Eisner would tell stories about the people of the spirits, I believe, city. What was his city, Central City, or
I can't remember.
New York, or wherever it was, wherever the spirit was centered. But a lot of the stories would be about, you know, the life of a little person in the city up until the moment they encountered the spirit, or some sort of drama that the spirit would only take, you know, a small but important part in. And that's where Eisner really excelled, is that he would capture the drama of everyday people in these stories. So there was a great temptation to do something like that. I would find myself taking inspiration when I would write, not from the plot so much of other stories, but sort of like the tone of how the story played out. For instance, I think I may have said this before, when we did the new Batman Superman Adventures, when I wrote Over the Edge, I was kind of inspired by The Simpsons at that time to do that story. And it's not a funny episode at all. But what I liked about The Simpsons at that time, and what I was really studying, was the way they could take all of Springfield, or a story that would cover all of Springfield in little bits, because the characters were so well known. It would start with the family, and then it would go to Mr. Burns, and it might go to the school, then it might go to Krusty the Clown or wherever. And so with The Man Who Killed Batman, because the action cuts around Gotham, I wanted to experiment with that. So, like, okay, here's a scene where we don't see Batman, but here's Montoya and Bullock, and the scene with the mayor and Gordon, and then we do a cutaway to the villains on a talk show and stuff like that. So it's not The Simpsons, but it borrows from the fact of you're able to cut to so many locations, which is a great advantage you have in animation, and that you can use it as a storytelling device. It doesn't have to be one all linear story where you're following the hero all the way through it.
And you've got such rich characters that you developed in the show, you know, like Bullock or Montoya, or so many side characters that became, you know, giant sensations like Harley Quinn. And you have so much fun to play around with all of that, where you don't need Batman, you know, at the forefront every single time, and they could take the limelight, and they do really well. Like, speaking of characters that just shine in this episode, I think Harley Quinn she's been great up with the episodes that we've seen her in. Mainly Joker's Favor and The Laughing Fish are the episodes that we've seen her in so far. This one, I feel like she really steps into that character, because you see her as Harley Quinzel, and that's the first time we ever get the name mentioned, and she's in this like business suit, and, you know, we kind of see a different side to her. But just the way she's so bored of, like, the gang, like the hyenas rip Murph to pieces, and she yawns and goes, I'll get them up. You know, like, I love that as an added detail to their little crew.
I mean, she's got to do, to some degree, she's got to do the grunt work like that every day. Oh, he shot somebody. Okay, I'll chop up the body and toss it in the river. Oh, I love that man of mine. But sometimes doing the dirty work is a little much. Yeah, that was fun, and that is the first time you hear her name, and actually, I was kind of on the fence if we use that as a real name or not, because she uses the name as a sort of a nod to her criminal name of Harley Quinn, and then people have pointed out, and I kind of thought about this at the time. Well, she's been arrested so many times; they know what her real name is. They know it's Harleen Quinzel. So
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it's just one of those goofy things that, you know, you do, and you don't really think about the consequences, or you just say, well, I'm going to do it anyway. It is kind of a continuity gonk if you look at it that way. But with, you could also argue that Bullock probably doesn't know who she, didn't remember who she was. Although, in Laughing Fish, she's, out to feed him to a shark. So yeah, he did arrest her, so he would know what her real name is. But we can also argue, like, well, maybe this is her second appearance, and he doesn't know. But and then what happened was we liked the name Harleen Quinzel, and we said, let's just use that. So it was it's one of those things where we stepped in a little bit of a bear trap we laid for ourselves, but I think it's fine.
Well, this show, it's always debated about what episode came first and this and that, because what's on the official release that you can get on streaming or wherever you buy stuff now is not the actual airing dates of stuff. So I always thought, maybe this was an episode that was, or you could just argue that this was an earlier appearance of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, or you can say, oh God, another one. There's 6 Harleen Quinzels in the Gotham City phone book,
but only one Bryce Wayne.
Yeah, only one Bryce Wayne.
The subpoena joke is one of my favorite jokes in the whole entire show, because the deadpan delivery of it is just fantastic.
Yeah, that was probably that was definitely inspired by Arlene, because she's got she had a real can make a good salty joke and things like that. So whenever I would write like some of Harley's more broader lines, I'd always think of her. Sometimes I'd just ask her, what's a good joke, and she would throw one in.
Don't I know you from someplace?
I think I served you a subpoena once. It was a small subpoena.
From Harley Quinn to the Joker, obviously, Joker's inclusion in this episode is fantastic. Mark Hamill's favorite spoken Joker dialogue comes from this episode, specifically the eulogy that Joker gives at Batman's funeral. He often quotes this eulogy at Comic-Cons and other fan conventions. I've seen him do it. And speaking of Mark Hamill, the time of recording today is Mark Hamill's birthday.
Yes, it is. Happy birthday, Mark. One of my favorite people.
You're probably not listening, but happy birthday, Mark.
He might. He might. He'll hear this at some point, I'm sure. It was a real treat to write this, and knowing that Mark would bring every bit of his talent to this. And that's the most fun, is when I write a Joker story that Mark is going to voice, either in the cartoons or in the Arkham video games. It's such a treat to bring him in, to have him be the Joker. And especially when he was doing the voice with Kevin, you really wanted to polish those scenes till they, shined like diamonds, because they would bring their best to it. And it was magic hearing them recording together. Sometimes they wouldn't even be in the same booth when they record, or the same studio when they were recording, but quite often they were. And the interplay between the two of them was just great. They had great interplay. They had a great charisma. They had a great affection for each other. And, it's a life thing, but it's sad, Kevin's gone, Arlene's gone. And so the old gang is not what it was, but, we have the episodes, and Mark has been very, very generous in his, estimation of the writing for the Joker. So very grateful for that.
Yeah, but I mean, also you are my favorite Joker writer, because you're one of the rare people that actually makes him funny. I feel like a lot of people don't like. That's the reason why he's my favorite comic book character of all time. Is yes, he's evil and a villain, but he's hilarious, and that's why I love Harley Quinn as well. They're both so funny in this show, and I feel like too many people have always focused on a bit of the evilness and the psychoness of Joker, where it's missing the fun, and that's why the writing really speaks to me in that way, because those words delivered by these actors is just the best versions of these characters ever.
Well, thank you. I mean, as a writer, you get a sense of the character. You also get a sense of the actor, and you know what they're going to respond to in a lot of cases. So, for instance, like when I was writing on the show Justice League Action, I wrote a cartoon that had Joker and Batman, Kevin and Mark in it. And there was a bit of business where Joker gets his hands on a mother box and he's able to pop from place to place really quickly. So he's going to spring Luthor out of jail. So he pops up behind a guard, and, what's a Joker line? Peekaboo, or joke's on you, or something like that. And I go like, no, And then there's got to be something else. It has to be more Mark Joker. And then I thought, Mark loves old sitcoms, and we can talk old sitcoms and old comedy till the wee small hours of the morning. And then I thought, I know he loves Bilko, and Bilko's catchphrase was "glad to see ya." So how about Joker pops in, taps him on the guard of the shoulder, and goes, "Glad to see ya," and then he knocks him out. And I just wanted to see the Mark's reading through like, "Oh, Bilko," and I go, "Yep," and he goes, "Oh," he would do that, and that just would bring. It also ties into the fact that the Joker, he steals more than valuables. He steals other comedians' routines. And so he would remember another comedian's catchphrase and know how to use it. And he would remember gags and borrow them and everything. That just, so to me,
that's literally what I do on this show. My brother will say something, and then my parrot brain would just repeat a random song lyric or some funny thing that I heard once that nobody knows the reference to, but it's funny to me. So,
oh, it is, yeah. And it's fun. I mean, I remember in Joker's favor, Joker has two other henchmen called Rocco and Henshaw, and Bobby Costanzo, reading through the script, goes, "Hey, that's a Bilko reference. Those were Bilko's henchmen." And I go, "Yep." So that registered with both Bobby and with Mark, because you throw them in. It's like, what are you going to call them? Thug 1, Thug 2, and. That's me. I'm a geek for old shows and sitcoms, and I just think that it's fun to refer to them occasionally. I mean, it doesn't detract from the story. It's just sort of, it's just the writer's call to put him in. It doesn't stop the action. It's not obvious. You don't really groan when you hear it.
It's an Easter egg for you and for other fans, right?
Personal Easter egg.
Yeah, they can recognize it and go, "Oh, they nod to it." Like, I see what you did there. Like, for example, Kevin Smith just did the He-Man Master of the Universe on Netflix, right? And at one point, he completely, like almost line for line, does the end of Batman 89.
But if the forces of evil should rise again to cast a shadow on the heart of the city, call me.
But if the forces of evil should ever rise again to cast a shadow over the heart of eternity, I'll always be here for you.
And when one of the characters is saying it, I was like nodding, like, I see what you did there. You know what I mean? Like, I see that Easter egg that you put in there for yourself, and that's fun. That's good stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, I never grew up with the Three Stooges, but I used to, as a kid, quote Joker from Batman the Animated Series all the time with the yada-dee, yada-dee, and yuck. And I just thought that was the Joker, like, because it was just funny,
Yeah. I mean, it is. There is that stuff running through there, but that also, something like that for Joker works. For Riddler, it doesn't. For Penguin, it doesn't. But Joker is, Robin Williams used to filter in a lot of comedy that he heard, and it would all come out his mouth. And he would take it in and he'd spin it back out. It wasn't that he was a joke thief or anything. It's just that everything came to him. So if he wanted to deliver a line like Elmer Fudd, or parody a politician or do another comedian voice, it would come out. So to Joker, he's very much got this repository of comedy in his head, and it's all at his command, and he can draw from it, anytime he wants to.
That's all, folks. Let's mambo!
Some more Joker things here. He makes a pun on the Latin term corpus delicti, using the words batus delicti, while wondering whether or not if Batman is actually dead. I thought that was a fun little play on words there that you did. And then he also uses the phrase "the day the clown cried," which is a Jerry Lewis comedy called "The Day the Clown Cried," which was shelved.
Yes, it's a very grim movie. You know, of course, what the movie's about, right?
I actually don't know. I did not delve into those details.
Well, Jerry Lewis, and I wish Paul Rugg was here, because Paul is the expert on Jerry Lewis, and he does that riff of him as Mr. Director in Animaniacs, and of course he's Freakazoid. But it's he could probably explain this better than I can. But The Day the Clown Cried is a movie that Jerry made in the late 60s, and he wanted to make a very soulful, moving movie. And what it is a story of a clown who is arrested during World War II by the Nazis, and he's put into a prison camp. And he's spared because what they want him to do is perform as a clown and lead the kids into the death
wow! I love it.
Oh yeah. So we lead them into the gas chamber so that they're not screaming and crying. So they'll follow him in, and then they're put to death.
Wow.
And I've never seen, no one's ever seen it. It's been locked away. It probably came from a very emotional place in him, and a very a soulful place. But again, the subject matter and the way it was rendered, from what I understand, it's not a comedy. It's not like he's doing, oh lady, follow me. It's a very moving and grim piece. And at the end, I understand that when he has to do this, he enters the chamber himself with the kids, and so that's the end of it. But that's hence the title, "The Day the Clown Cried." And so, Joker would make a reference to something very mordant and very, something that people would have a lot of problem with, because that's just in his nature.
Dear friends, today is the day the clown cried.
Our final fun fact here is background artist Keith Wiesner, who came on the show a few months ago, told us when he came on our show that he spent a week designing most of the backgrounds for this episode, including the iconic Joker throne, as he was able to basically take a whole week, and he just did all of the backgrounds for this, and he got a big old fat paycheck, and he bought a classic car out of it. And after that, Warner Brothers decided to put a cap on how much artists can do on each episode, because they didn't want a particular artist walking away with enough money to buy a classic car, which I thought was a very funny story that he shared.
Well, I didn't know that part of it. I do know that Keith is huge on classic cars, and if you can find him online, look at his paintings. They're all wonderful. He does terrific. The best classic cars. He does the best cars, period. His design work in general is terrific. But I didn't know that he went out and bought a hot rod. That's very key.
So that's his memory of the man who killed Batman. Was I bought a car I've always wanted. I love that, and his backgrounds are great in this. Like, I love that Joker throne. I think that's so cool.
Welcome, Sydney.
Just talking about some that kind of stood out for me. I really like that dock sequence, the drug run at the start. Like, I really like that whole setting. Although when Batman first shows up, his music plays, you see his shadow, and then he holds out his hand, and it looks like a gun. And for a split second, I was like, is he about to shoot this guy? And then a cable came out of the gun, and I was like, oh, it's his like, the grapple, the grapple that he. But it looked like a gun, and I was like, oh shit, Batman's about to cap him on the fucking
heat.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another little Easter egg I'll throw in. And among the gangsters, the guy who brings Sid the Squid on the job is a gangster named Eddie G. Eddie G is actually a real person. He's a friend of mine and of a lot of people on the show. His name is Eddie Gorodetsky. He was a writer of Christmas with the Joker. And Eddie has been a really good pal of mine since we were at Emerson College together. Eddie actually left school early to write comedy professionally, and he's written for everybody. So he was working for SCTV, he was working for Saturday Night Live, and for Letterman, and for a ton of people. And he's well known today as one of the co-creators of writer-producer on Big Bang Theory, and he created the show Mom, and Bob Hart Abishola, which is running over here in the States, and a number of other things. He's a tremendous guy. And every year he used to make this wonderful Christmas mix tape, and then he moved it to a CD. And everybody in Los Angeles, hoped to be on his good list, because the compilations he'd make were really incredible. And so it would be like, here's a Christmas present from Eddie G, and it was his annual thing. That's why he wrote Christmas with the Joker, is because he was so, he had such an affinity for Christmas music.
That's great.
Oddly enough, doesn't care for Christmas all that much, but he loves Batman, and I thought it would be a fun nod if he wrote that episode. And so I was looking for a name of a tough criminal, and I thought Eddie G is kind of a good name for a criminal, so we put him in. Looks nothing like the real Eddie Gorodetsky, but Nor was it intended to look or sound like him. The name was just a nod to.
Hey, I hate Christmas, but I love the music. I'm Eddie G. That's my shtick.
Yeah. He actually he works very closely with Bob Dylan, and I don't know if you heard the show, but they did a show together about 10 years back called Theme Time Radio Hour, where they would take a theme. It's running on Sirius Radio, where they would take a theme like dogs or mother or food or love, and come up with a lot of obscure music, which would be the subject of that hour.
That's
Eddie
fun.
has the most phenomenal record collection in the world. Between Eddie and Bob Dylan, I don't think you're going to find two bigger, record geeks.
I love the idea of a gangster in Gotham, and everyone's like, "Did you get his Christmas CD this year? Oh, it was so good. I didn't get it."
Yeah.
You're like,
Eddie G's Christmas CD. It's great. He put some great ska tunes on there. I mean,
It's Eddie G under the tree.
Yeah,
everyone all year is doing him favors because they're like, and of course, please put me on your Christmas list this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody and people would call me up and they go, "Did Eddie give you more than one? Can I get one?" And finally, Eddie would just get to the point where he'd go like, "Here's 10 of them. Give them out to people who want them." And you can actually get one of his. He did do one released for sale, and it's called Christmas Party with Eddie G, and I think you can find it on eBay or you can get it a secondhand copy at this point. But he couldn't bring them out regularly because clearing the music rights to these things is just it's nigh on impossible. But
well, you can make a Spotify playlist now, can't you?
Share
that every year.
Yeah. Well, I bug him about that every year. I said, "Are you going to bring out another one? You could do it for." He goes, "No, I'm done with those." But he will. He does have a record club that he a few times a year he'll bring out, and they're not usually around a theme. They're just whatever he's listening to lately, and it's always great old stuff. It's always terrific stuff.
That sounds great.
The idea of doing that, like I said, he doesn't care for Christmas that much, but what he loves is music, and so
that's such a random.
I cannot stand Christmas. It's the worst holiday. But God damn it, when freaking Frank Sinatra sings Jingle Bells.
It's the thing.
It's the best thing ever.
He would bring out the CDs as a way of tricking people into listening. Oh, I'll throw on the CD or the tape, and then they'd hear something like, "Oh, who's that? Who's that artist?" Well, that's Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. And if you didn't listen to much old country music, you'd go like, "That's really cool. I'm gonna hunt that up." And you'd find. My wife Misty loves a song you put on one, which is by a Japanese group called Terry and the Bunnies, which is basically just Japanese girls screaming as an instrumental version of "Here Comes Santa Claus" plays in the back. Would we ever listen to Terry and the Bunnies on our own? No. But here's Santa Claus with these girls just in the background screaming, yeah, and with this heavy twanging, almost like Japanese version of surf music, playing this version of
one of the gangsters finally gets a CD. They're like, "This is what it is. This is what they get what talks about screaming Japanese girls."
Your grandma got run over by reindeer. But he doesn't hate it that much. He's over here every Christmas Eve. He and his wife Coco come over, and
I hate Christmas. I'm coming over.
I make Christmas punch for him. We're here at all hours. I mean, that's our Christmas. So,
I think he might like Christmas. I think he might be lying to you.
Yeah,
it sounds like he loves. He's like, "I don't like Christmas. I love it."
I like coming to your house. I like the cranberry punch. I like hanging out. I like talking and, stuff like that.
You watch Christmas with the Joker. Yeah. It's a great time.
That is one of my favorite lines in that. When Robin says,
"We come back here, have Christmas dinner, and watch It's a Wonderful Life."
I've never seen that. I could never get past the title.
You couldn't get past the title.
Yeah, it's a great line. I love that line.
Yeah. They actually are coming out with a figure of the Joker for... in his sweater, in his what I call the Perry Como outfit, hosting the special. So, that's what Eddie's getting for Christmas. Spoiler.
Oh, that's awesome! I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So back in this episode, I thought it was a great little scene at the dock. Like I said, the way Batman died was like something out of Final Destination, though, with like the brick falling and the way like the antenna hits him. Yeah. And the way the propane, like the brick hits the propane tank and it explodes. I was like, this is like a Final Destination death. This is great.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very fitting that the last episode where he was contemplating his whole career and said it could be a supervillain or it could just be some, what does he say, like some lucky idiot or something?
Yeah,
It's
he's like
just a hood who gets lucky or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. You know?
exactly. Yeah,
Very,
that was
very fitting
great.
that the next time he's like, you know what? I am Batman. I'm feeling really confident. The first guy he takes is Sid the Squid and nearly dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It was an accident. Really? You okay?
Back off.
Well, that's the irony of Batman. I mean, it could be like he sees somebody holding up a convenience store. He swings in, there's a fight, and it could be the convenience store owner who grabs a gun and gets off a lucky shot into Batman. That's why, Batman works really well fighting Scarecrow and Penguin and guys like that. And street crime, it's like it's too risky. I mean, he's got to leave that stuff to the cops. I mean, but
that's true.
I don't know, but he has that attitude. It could be anybody. This is what I'm doing. No,
well, Paul, I want to ask you a question about Batman's death, because obviously they think he's dead because they find his cape and cowl at the scene of the crime. Now, does that mean Batman's just running around Gotham with his mask off after that? Or is he carrying a spare cape and cowl in his utility belt? Because once he takes it off, I was like, that's just Bruce Wayne in a Batman suit.
Hey, that's Bryce Wayne, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Bryce Wayne, yeah. I'm not Batman, I'm Bryce Wayne. I'm coming. That was one of the things that we couldn't deal with, and we just have to leave to the viewer's imagination, that he's like, he loses the cape and cowl, so he's got to go back to the Batcave and get another one. He also realizes that, this has an advantage. If they think he's dead, then he can, kind of follow at a distance. So it would have blown the gag if we had stayed with him after he lost the cape and cowl, or if he called Alfred, and then all the energy would be out because of the episode, because it works because you do think that Sid killed him and that he's dead. So
it would be funny though.
It would be funny to see the Batman. Like, I know, obviously,
Alfred. Did you lose your mask again, sir?
Lost another one. You have to safety pin them to your shirt.
Can you pick me up, Alfred?
Also, I noticed there's a disinterested bartender that watches the bar fight that looks kind of like Bruce Timm. Do you know who I'm talking about there? The character?
Yeah. Probably. Bruce is great at sticking in little caricatures and things like that, and nods to various crew members and things like that. I mean, he was all over the Gray Ghost episode as the Mad Bomber, and a version of me has shown up here and there.
Oh, I wanted to ask the scene where Sid. The acid's coming through the coffin that he's in, and then suddenly he's up on the banks of the Gotham Bay. Is that an homage to the Killing Joke and the origin of the Joker there coming up on the banks?
Not specifically. I mean, when I wrote it, it was just like you don't really know where he is. He sort of washed down the tubes, and at some point Batman snagged him and pulled him to safety. Okay. Opened it up and then vanished. I
took it because it's Ace Chemicals, right? And that's like where Joker fell
it was
through.
Probably
on the same journey.
It wasn't deliberate, but it probably by coincidence it sort of did work out that way. Like if you fall in the tanks at Ace Chemicals, you're going to wash out sort of similar.
I think someone should look into that. I mean, laughing fish is like the least of their problems if that lands right into the river.
I mean, I think, they Suicide Squad, Harley gets pushed into the chemicals, somewhere, and, it's Ace Chemicals also, I think. And, she goes and blows it up in Birds of Prey, I think. If it's the same one. I know she...
I think it's featured in both. And also you're Lady Gaga's about to play Harley Quinn very soon as well.
Oh, that.
I'm sure you're just probably really proud and just happy to see your character that you made, all these different interpretations and all these different people playing them. But for us, the one true Harley has always been from this show, and it's always been Arlene Sorkin. There's no better, in my opinion.
No, I mean, she really defined the character. She created the character vocally, and she really defines the character. But there are times it just sort of hits me like, some of the greatest talent of our time has played this character. You know, Margot Robbie and Lady Gaga and Kaylee in the cartoons, and everybody who's done the voice. You know, Tara. So many wonderful talents who've embraced the character, and I'm going like, it's very humbling, and makes me feel very good. As far as Lady Gaga goes, I can't wait to see what she does with it. And I just got the track list off her album that she does as a sort of a tie-in with that. And they're all songs that I grew up with, and they're all songs that for the most part, there are a few of her creations in there, but there's songs that underscore the character emotionally and what Harley is going to. And some of those are songs I used to listen to when I was writing the character, because the character is a sad place. I mean, I would throw on Sinatra and Tony Bennett, and I'd listen to some of the Wee Small Hours in the Morning, or What'll I Do, or some of the old sad songs somebody with a broken heart would sing, and that would definitely influence her relationship with the Joker, the longing for him, and I'm trying everything and nothing is working out. And in this episode, actually, there is one scene that is very telling about her personality, and one scene that I don't think I'd ever repeat with her again. But it at the time, it was important to establish, their relationship. And that is, after they have this robbery, she comes skipping in, look at all the pretties. And Joker grabs her, throws her down, and she apologizes, which is horrible.
Yeah.
Well, it's horrible that she did it. It's also horrible she apologized, because he owes her the apology. And I would never, I remember even watching that, I feel like she's a criminal. She had not reformed at that point. She's somebody who's made horrific life choices, and she's a villain. She would just as easily kill Batman or anybody else without any sort of conscience at this point. And the underling exists to be, as bad as the person they work for. But there's something about her when she picks up the jewels and apologizes. Oh, I'm sorry. Never again. I just said, no, they can have the relationship, but from now on, and I think in some of the later episodes, like Joker's Millions, she's much more on even footing with him. They're much more
you explore it more in Mad Love, don't you? Mad Love, yeah. She obviously breaks free from that hold that he has over her, and comes closer to killing Batman more than anyone ever has.
Right.
Except for Sid the Squid.
Sid the Squid.
But after The Man Who Killed Batman, I believe the next time she shows up is in Harley and Ivy, and then that's a step forward with her, And I thought, I remember the day I came up with that idea. I went into Alan Burnett's office and I said, I kind of want to pair up Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, do a bit of a Thelma and Louise, do a bit of a girl empowerment story where Harley is kicked out by the Joker and Ivy takes her in and kind of helps her to be a stronger person. Alan said, great, going to be in next week? And I said, yep. And he said, right. So,
well, I got to say, going back to their relationship, when I saw that and they put them back, Harley, and I said, I put them back, and he throws her and everything, I was like, oh, wow, that's, obviously what the Joker and Harley relationship used to be, and that's what they've explored in all these different other films and TV shows, and how she breaks away from it. But the fact that you got to do that, man, for a cartoon, and you got to show a villain, like the villain is the one that's portraying this like abusive, obviously, relationship. That's all negative, because no one wants to be the villain. They want to be Batman that punches the villain in the face. So for me, I think that the fact that you got to do that and demonstrate that for kids that are watching it, and they were all ages that watched this show, but the fact that you treated the material seriously, and you weren't like making fun of it or making it in satire. It went serious for a moment there, and it was like there was no joke made after that. And I really appreciate that you got to do that. And as a kid, I got to watch that, and like I never saw anything but, oh shit, the Joker's actually a prick. At the time I didn't know what the phrase was, but he's a prick.
Put them back, Harley.
Oh, Mr. J, you're such a kidder. You never could...
I said put them back!
I took it more as, you really see where she is in the pecking order in the Joker's life. He's so focused on Batman in that moment that just like what Harley just focusing on something like that, he's lashing out because he's angry. You know, he's upset. And that's what I like. I just love how it's always. That's what I love about this episode. Is just like the moment he's like, "What's the punchline without Batman?" I mean, that's such a great line.
People have always asked me, does the Joker truly love Harley? And my answer is usually he loves what he turned her into, which is basically, like some sort of perverse reversion of Pygmalion. This is a woman who was very smart in her initial creation, rather cunning and rather a manipulator. And she got swept in by him. But he took this woman who was pretty damn smart and kind of made her into what he wanted her to be. And some of it was of her own doing. But he loves having her there. He loves the attention. He loves the applause. And I think that with her, why she remains a valid character is because over time, she broke away from that. And now she's independent. And if somebody said, came to me and said, we want to kind of have Harley go back with the Joker and all is forgiven and continue as this sort of manic duo together, I would say get another writer because I'm not going back to that in any way, shape, or form. I might go back and tell a story set in that time, which I did with Jimmy Palmiotti when we did a Harley Loves Joker series about 6-7 years ago. But these were stories that were supposed to be happening concurrently with that period of, I guess, animated series timeline. But as far as today goes, there's so many people who like the a little Lego figure of her, her little, her little Suicide Squad outfit where she's more independent. She's in a relationship with Poison Ivy, and but she's still able to be strong and manic and make bad mistakes and keep going. But I think the character had to come from something like that to get to where she is today.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the character to me, is that she can go to all these places and you created something that just everyone fell in love with and then have just used in their storytelling in any Batman medium. I mean, like I said, she's everywhere. She's massive. As I don't need to tell you that, that.
Yeah, and different variations of her can tell different stories. I mean, Bruce, reworked her again for Caped Crusader, and then that's as valid an interpretation of her as any. And so when I see Lady Gaga coming up with her own take on Harley and who she is and that, I'm very excited about it, especially as it's, accented with music. People have been saying, oh, it's a musical, I'm not going to go see it. It's like, there's always been an element of music to Harley's nature. It was in Harley Quinn when she sings Say That We're Sweethearts Again. I wrote an episode of The Batman, and which kind of, showed her relationship to Joker there, and they're dancing around town to a Hank Williams song and having a great time. And it's like that, the relationship can, be very musical or very musically inspired.
You're my gal and I'm your feller, dressed up in your frock of yeller. I look swell, but you look sweller, setting the woods on fire.
Well, I will say, because I have the opportunity to tell you that one of the best lines, if not the line that I quote the most from this show, is in this episode, where after the coffin goes down into the acid and the kazoo playing stops, Joker sighs and goes, well, that was fun. Who's for Chinese? And I have said that, Paul, since I can remember. I found that, as a kid, I found that so funny because it was like all that tenseness, that sadness, and he just breaks all that tension with just such a great line. And just the fact that Joker would go to a Chinese place with like Harley Quinn and his thug, and like he's getting like, I'll have the number 6, and Murphy over here will have the egg rolls. Like my mind soared with all of the opportunities and the potential places that could go. That's my favorite fucking line of the whole show.
I've used that line, like something goes wrong, like, oh, that was fun. Who's for Chinese? It's like that's his nature. It's just like he's very sad in that moment. His great enemy is gone, but let's get some almond chicken.
Yeah, it's just very moving on.
Yeah.
And Harley's like, "Oh, we need some horseshoe up for the babies. Let's get a couple of ducks." And so, they go off, they go to Wohop, and they have a good time. They go home, and
That's the episode I want to see.
Yeah. They just more egg rolls, Murphy, and more bandages. Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I would love to see that, and I would also love to see what Batman did as far as what we didn't see him do in this episode, from getting his cape and cowl back to just following Sydney without being spotted. I would love to have seen all his little side quests.
It'd be great if when he comes in and saves Sydney for the last time. He's wearing a Spider-Man mask. There's a price tag on it. Like, where's that? Well, I stopped at the costume store, and this is all they had. My size.
Bryce Wayne is Spider-Man?
Bryce Wayne is Spider-Man?
I didn't think that joke would last, but it's lasted this whole episode.
I'll bury it to the ground.
You get to the Daily Bugle and Jonah Jameson. Bryce Wayne, well, I guess I owe Robbie Robertson $1.
So at the end of this episode, Batman throws a ninja star into the barrel of a gun, which is very much what he did in I Am the Night, produced by the same animation studio. And then he takes down Thorn and tells Sydney his whole plan and what he planned to do. And he sends Sydney to prison. And we finally see Sydney being praised for the villain or the thug, the criminal he's always wanted to be as his fellow inmates cheer him on. And that's the end of the episode. And I think it's a great end as well.
Yeah, it gives a little nebbish, a ranking in the criminal hierarchy. He's somewhere on a par between the Good Feathers and the Riddler. It's like, well, I rank higher than the pigeons on the cartoon show, but I'm not Riddler level yet. But I'll keep working at it. So yeah.
You made a fool out of the Joker. Don't mess with him, man.
A big shot at last.
I can't see Sid the Squid being in Batman's top rogues gallery. I can't see it be like Joker, Two-Face, Sid the Squid.
No, but he's probably going to eat off that off that story for years. He doesn't have to be a criminal anymore. You figure he's going to do 3 to 5 years tops. For he's kind of a little fish, but every time he goes to a restaurant, it's like, Sid the Squid, get him a table. Well, there was that night I had Batman begging for mercy, and Joker, he doesn't show his face around me.
Oh, he would definitely have a ghostwriter write the man who killed Batman as a book you would bring out.
I mean, we did bring Sid back in the comics. We had Batman shake him down for a bit of information, but that was just fun for Alan and I to use the character again. But it would be fun to see where he goes in later years, that he traded on that reputation.
Well, I can see him definitely being at the next poker game saying, "And that's how I almost got him." I can see that.
That's true.
It's like, that's great, Sid. Now, could you get our beers for us?
Yeah, that's where he works.
That's where he works. He's like waiting on them.
He's Sid the bartender now.
Yeah.
No, he's Sid the barista. Bryce Wayne, your coffee, Bryce Wayne.
Oh, it all comes together. Sid is the barista. Wayne. Oh my god.
Hey, Bryce Wayne, you want to hear how I almost killed Batman?
That's great.
Sure, Sid. Why don't you get me to Scotty? I got 5 minutes. Why don't you tell me that? Well, he's sitting there with us. He's sitting there like Willy Wonka. Tell me again, bro. Tell me again, Sid. Yeah,
there I was, the Squid Man.
Yeah.
Like a hungry sea predator, Sid the Squid stretched his tentacles through the Gotham underworld.
Well, Paul, what are you up to these days? What can you share with everyone that's watching and listening that you have coming out soon, or is it all under lock and key right now?
It's pretty much under lock and key. I'm doing a lot of writing, and I'm doing a lot of creating on a bunch of new projects, and I'm just not there yet as far as talking about them. There's something that I'm signing the contract on today that's going to be a new creation with a bunch of new characters. I can't say it's going to be a graphic novel. I'm very excited about the artist I'm working with, and you'll probably see it in major chain bookstores in 2 years. So probably fourth quarter of 2026. Wow. And this is something that this artist and I have worked on over the years. I'll tell you the artist's name. His name is James Silvani. He's really terrific. He has a great comedic style. What we're doing is a comedy, a very dark one. James also is coming out with a pirate book, which is he's thrown his heart and soul into, and that's going on. That's starting on a Kickstarter campaign. And I really encourage you to check out this book because it is wonderful. He's got like I say, he's got a tremendous style that goes from Warner Brothers to Disney to superheroes and back. And so this is actually growing out of something that we had set for publication about 8 years ago, and then the rug was pulled out from under us. And then we've always said we have to do something with these characters. So I can't tell you the publisher, but we have a deal to do this as a kind of a big graphic novel, and there'll be more talk about that, down the road, I guess. Then there's a couple of animation things that I'm working on. Again, just not ready to talk about them at this moment, but you could be hearing about them in a couple of weeks or two. So I've actually never been busier just trying to get things ready and things out, but it's all for next year.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be on this pod. Then, if you've never been busy, I really appreciate that, man. That's
it's great.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Now, before we let you go, do you have any Batman memorabilia that you might be able to share with us?
Well, I did show you the Harley Lego, and there's an Ivy, and somewhere there's a March Harriet and a Joker. And actually what I do, I mean, other than the fact that, sit here fiddling with them, sometimes I will actually use them to map out scenes when I'm writing. I mean, a couple of years ago, Kevin Altieri and I did a Harley story set in Las Vegas, and it was a caper involving them knocking over a casino. It was like Harley's version of Ocean's 11. And because there was so much action happening at different parts of the story, I actually did take, these Lego figures and, okay, Harley and March Harriet over here. Okay, I have to get somebody to fill in for Baby Doll. So I think there's an Elsa from Frozen. I'll use her in there because they didn't make a baby doll. And I'll sort of map it out, and then I'll move them around and as I type, because there was a lot of moving parts to that episode. So I had to, keep them all going. So other than them being sort of things I use on my desk, occasionally I will use them to just sort of plot out action. What else can I show you? Batman memorabilia wise.
Whilst you're looking, that just playing with toys, it made me realize like one of the first times that we ever tell a story is when we have action figures as a kid, and we're like enacting scenes. Like my brother and I, we would have big old stories with our action figures. We had a ton of Batman the Animated Series toys.
Oh,
by the way.
Sure.
And
you did. You didn't let me play with any of them.
No, that's true.
Yeah. We had in our basement.
Oh, shame, Alex.
We actually grew up in New Jersey, and in the basement we had in New Jersey.
Well, I can send you a couple of.
But when we were kids, we had this basement that had a bar in it, and my brother would be like, "This is Wayne Manor, right?" Mm-hmm. And we'd always play. I can't be any of the Batman characters, so I was Spider-Man. So I had Spider-Man the Animated Series toys.
Oh sure, yeah.
And he's like, Wayne Manor is the bar, and this bar stool is Peter Parker's apartment. There you go. So he's having this huge epic like battle at Wayne Manor with Mr. Freeze and every character, RoboCop and whatever else we had in the toy thing. And I'm just like in an apartment building on a bar stool in the corner, like, yeah, freaking.
I love how here we are. You're complaining about our childhood to Paul Dini.
That's right. That's right.
I'm happy to listen. I mean, you could have done like the team ups that they don't allow you to do anymore, which is Spider-Man and Batman. You both go after Mr. Freeze and throw on a Spider-Man. Say the Lizard.
Yeah, if I was feeling generous, Paul, I would let him.
That's
team
right.
up. But
this is my revenge for you doing that to me. Is bringing it up in front of Paul Dini 30 years later. So there you go.
I stole my brother's toys too. Every chance I could. I did it all the time, and we would rip each other off constantly.
Well, there you go. You got material for your therapist roundtable story that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. But they're interviewing somebody, and then the villains just start airing their own grievances. It's like Jonathan Crane. I had no brothers and sisters, or if I did, they ran away. They were so scared of me. Harley's like, my brothers broke all my toys. That's the way I am. I'm so sad.
Ooh, look at the goodies.
Well, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much. And if you ever
it was great.
If you ever wanted to come back and chat more about Batman, you're more than welcome, obviously.
Oh, sounds wonderful. That would be great. This was a treat for me. I really enjoyed it, and it was fun looking at the episode again in advance of talking about it. And yeah, it's always been one of my favorites. Here's another little trivia thing about the episode. One of the best pieces of artwork that you will never see connected with this was on the title card, you have that image of Sid, with the little in silhouette with little owlish eyes, is this little guy. When Bruce did the storyboard, he did basically that, but what he did was it was really great. It was this very shadowy image of all the villains. It was like Bullock and Montoya on one side looming over Sid, and it was Joker and Harley looming over the other side of him. It almost looked a little bit like Duck Tracy when Daffy is surrounded by all the looming villains.
Snake eyes. Idiot teeth. Oh, hammerhead. Oh no, pussycat puss, Batman.
And I remember seeing that he had done, Bruce, he just does it and, puts it out there. I thought that's really, really a stunning image of them all looming over him. But I think it tipped too much to the audience, or for whatever reason, he didn't do it, or he and Eric did not do that as the actual title card. It was something similar, but I missed the image of the looming faces over.
Yeah, I love the title card for this episode, but that sounds awesome. That sounds like it tells the story.
I think that may be it. It may tell too much of the story because it also Joker's in it. And...
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a very famous old issue of Detective Comics where it's Neil Adams Batman in like a hallway with all like the villains like looming over him, like coming out.
Yeah. It's very similar to that. Some of the most stunning work for Batman is stuff that just never made it to screen. They were either ideas that were rejected or things that were done as sort of inspiration for an episode, or quite often there were just the walls of Warner Brothers at that time were just filled with cartoons and caricatures and ideas. And, some of it was deliberately funny. Some of it was sort of, a bit adult, just sort of, people making fun of each other or, having fun at each other's expense. And some of them were just really lovely images of the characters that just, for whatever reason, never found their way on the screen. That's all. A fraction of that was shown in the book that Chip Kidd and I wrote. We got to show some of the behind the scenes stuff.
I have here. I need. This is my gift to my brother of the Batman I drew. Oh, of course, I'm disappearing.
Oh, nice.
Batman the animated series that I drew because he came to the convention with me. That I made him sit at.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He's holding it hostage right now, Paul. He's not giving to me yet.
You know what happened? I drew this, right? And when he was done, he went, "That's great. You could sell that for like 20 quid."
Yeah.
I underpriced it just a bit.
Just a bit. I'm a professional artist, but that's right. 20 quid, why not?
You're really airing out our dirty laundry to Paul Dini. Paul, I think we better let you go before you hear about any more of my brother's trauma.
Oh, no.
There's a time he dressed up as Batman as a kid and beat up me and my friends, which is... But he was a very chunky child, so the costume was a bit dated. It was from when he was
more
younger.
Fat Man than Batman.
That's right.
Oh, no. I love it. I can talk Batman all day and probably would. But thanks for having me on the show, on your podcast. It was really terrific. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully the fans will enjoy us talking about the Man Who Killed Batman. It's one of my favorite episodes. I really loved it.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, you are my least favorite writer on the show, I would say, probably. So, this must have been a big event for you to come on this show, so that's nice.
It was.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. All right, bud, that was such a pleasure to talk to Paul, wasn't it? What a legend. I mean, it goes without saying what a legend he is, but what a genuinely nice guy to talk to as well.
100%. The insight, he said something that really, I just thought was really it sounds so stupid because I'm like, wow, he knows the character so well. I'm like, yeah, he fucking co-created the character, like obviously. But the thing you said about Harley with the Joker and how Joker is not in love with Harley, but he likes what he's turned her into. I was just like, when he said that, I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah,
that's
the answer.
Lovely bloke, really nice time chatting. I'm glad I got to embarrass you a little bit in front of him. So that's great.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that was definitely unexpected, but still funny. And Bryce Wayne will forever live on all coffee cups around
That's
Gotham
right.
City. So also I want to say a big thank you to our listener and the voice of Bishop in X-Men 97, Isaac Robinson Smith, for introducing us to Paul Dini. Without you, we would never have been able to have that conversation. So
Absolutely.
Isaac, thank you so much, dude. Thank you for being a listener. And thank you for making that introduction. And hopefully we'll have Isaac on the show at some point soon to just talk about his time on X-Men and also his love for BTAS and anything else. So
absolutely. That sounds great to me.
All right. As always, we go into our top 3 now that we've reviewed this episode. We didn't want to do this in front of Paul Dini because the top 3 that we have right now are Almost Got Him, Joker's Favorite, and The Laughing Fish. All episodes he's written. So...
Yeah, I didn't know that when I said it. I was like, oh, this will be fun. And I was like, kind of look like we're obsessive fanboys. Whoopsie.
Okay. Are we going to dethrone any of these top 3 episodes to replace them with The Man Who Killed Batman?
I don't know. I really do like The Man Who Killed Batman. It's very, very good.
It is.
All right, let's go through one by one then. What's the first one?
The first one is the one that's been on there the longest is Joker's Favor.
Okay. I love that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Great score.
Another episode, as you said, which is a down on his luck guy that's just getting involved with the Joker and Batman in a caper. So, yeah. Oh, the score is better. The score is better
when he's in the car and he's like the great white shark following him. Okay, Chuck is. Oh man,
yeah.
Because that's probably the weakest, and I'd put that in heavy quotations. Out of the other 2, right? Because the other one's Almost Got Him, which is like a classic.
Almost Got Him is untouchable for me. Untouchable.
I don't know. There's that Poison Ivy segment that I would have now preferred it to be Christmas trees. So I might shove that one out personally for myself.
No, I can't do that. Almost Got Him is untouchable for me. It spawned such a huge, it spawned a card game. It's in so many BTAS highlights. It is the episode that and it brings all of them together, playing a poker game, telling their stories about how they almost got Batman.
Yeah, it's an anthology episode.
Yeah, I think it's untouchable. And I also think The Laughing Fish is a near perfect episode. So I would say, if anything, Joker's Favorite is the weakest out of all 3. But I will be honest here, and I'll put my hand up. I think that The Man Who Killed Batman doesn't make the list
by a decimal point.
By a decimal point.
A decimal point.
I agree.
I don't know. It's it's tough because this is a perfect episode in my opinion. We haven't even done a ranking yet, and I think I would rank it higher than Almost Got Him because Almost Got Him's amazing. But when you've seen it, right? The reveal is done. So in terms of rewatchability, would I rather rewatch Almost Got Him or would I rather rewatch Man Who Killed Batman? Oh, I don't know. Probably Almost Got Him actually.
It's got more characters in it as well. And you know what? Here's what I was thinking today. I love the angle of let's do an episode where Batman is not in it. Can we do it? Which is great, and it obviously worked. But I do miss Batman, and having Batman.
I'm very cool with that.
Having Batman and all the other 3, it makes that just a bit stronger for me personally. So that's where I'm sitting with my ranking. Unless you wanted to do a top 5 and add 2 more and add The Man Who Killed Batman. Yeah.
All right, it doesn't make the list then.
Okay.
It's pretty fucking embarrassing. We have Paul fucking Dini on the show to talk about an episode, and we're like, yeah, it doesn't make our top 3 anyway. At least the other ones he wrote.
Exactly. The top 3 are his episodes. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good trade. But ranking out of 10 then, let's go on to that. What will you rank this episode out of 10?
It's very good. Oh, but you also get the first time seeing Joker realizing he mourning over Batman. Who was up for Chinese?
It's not making the list, so yeah, just rank it.
It's such good. 9.6.
9.6. Okay. I went with a 9.1 for this.
Yep.
So I don't know where we fall on that. 9.45, something. I really don't want you to do the maths.
I've been fulfillment all day, so even though it's not that difficult, it's what, 2.5? So all right, 9.3.5.
Okay, there we go.
That's not even right, is it?
Well, you'll find out when you're in the shower. Okay.
I said 9.6, right? Yeah.
When you're in the shower, you'll go, that's not right. But anyway, we'll have to wait till then.
3.5, Spice.
And then your favorite section, Fit Check, where we go through all of the outfits that people might be wearing for the first time, all of our regulars. And we've got Harley Quinn wears a red business suit in the jail. So that's a new outfit for her. And Joker wears his purple trench coat and fedora. We haven't seen that for a while, so I do love that look.
I didn't mention on the show, but I love when Joker's like in the darkness chatting.
Yes,
like
me too.
Shadow over him. It's great.
Yeah. And the way he goes, killed Batman. And like, he's like, oh, that was painful to say. I love, and the animation there with Mark Hamill's performance, as Paul said, is just top tier.
Please allow me the honor of shaking hands with the man who did the impossible. The man who killed Batman.
All right. So that was amazing. I'm so glad we had Paul join us for that episode. Thanks again for Paul for coming on. Next up, we are going to review the episode Mudslide. Do you know what that might be about?
I watch the episode every morning, bud.
You live it.
It's my life. It's a mudslide.
Okay, can you take a guess what Mudslide's about?
I'm going to say it's about Clayface.
Correct, yes.
And he's sliding into those DMs. He would be the ultimate catfish, right? They'd be like, he's showing like, oh, it actually is him. And then you soon find out it's not. Pretty cool story. Right, Paul? Go watch that. Pretty cool, right? Clayface, catfish. Call me. You got my name.
Okay, so come back next week where we'll be reviewing that episode.